seeing through public life and cultural trends to the values that animate them. And this time, I couldn't help noticing that the 2020s were a new era. One where it was no longer politically risky for a conservative darling to suggest that freedom from the responsibility of raising a child could be a good thing. The idea that women deserved freedom was decidedly not from the conservative playbook. The conservative side, in the abortion debate, had long been spouting versions of the idea that women needed to stay where we belonged, whether that meant accepting the consequences of our decisions, remaining in the kitchen, or, as the alt-right would have it, accepting that America belongs to its fathers and is owed to its sons. But instead, here was an abortion opponent suggesting that forced motherhood, yes, she used that term, and yes, it was a she, was not something women should have to undergo. The only way I could make sense of this seeming about-face was to think about the person who had argued that safe haven laws respected women's bodily autonomy in the first place. She was a pearl-wearing mom of 7, drafted to the Supreme Court from a Catholic law school, known for seeming to weave a very demanding form of motherhood seamlessly into a high-powered career. It was these bona fides of traditional white femininity that made her popular with her conservative Christian base. But Justice Amy Coney Barrett and her supporters had long been presenting her as something other than traditional. Barrett, in the eyes of her supporters, represented a new kind of woman. Barrett was the type of woman who made her own rules. She showed up to her confirmation hearing in a fuchsia-colored dress, as though to make a statement about how femme presentation belonged, even in the halls of power. The conservative theater surrounding her confirmation hearing portrayed her as a gender warrior, someone who should be celebrated for not fitting into the conventional mold of what a Supreme Court justice looks like. Never mind that she had been part of a religious group that referred to women as handmaids. Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn had used Barrett's confirmation as an opportunity to scold paternalistic, progressive critics for not entering the hearing with an open mind. Blackburn, who refers to gender-affirming care for trans youth as child mutilation, was suddenly all about criticizing gender roles. Barrett's critics, Blackburn said, must believe only certain kinds of women would be allowed into this hearing room. Senator Joni Ernst, also a Republican, went so far as to suggest that feminists were like fundamentalists, punishing Barrett, just as women all over the world are punished, perceived and judged based on who someone else needs or wants us to be, not on who we actually are. Barrett herself liked to insist that she wasn't a woman who let other people tell her what to do or who to be. The academic and professional victories that led her to become the 6th woman ever nominated to the U.S. Supreme Court had happened because she was not the type of person to be cowed by sexism. It never occurred to her that anyone would consider girls to be less capable than boys, she said during her confirmation hearings. She had feminist advice ready at hand for those who, like the school-age granddaughters of a Republican senator, would ask for a memento. In their pocket constitutions, she had scrawled the words, "Dream big." Once I learned about Barrett's advice to young girls, she no longer seemed to belong to some topsy-turvy nightmare. Her words could, in fact, be heard on any given evening on my living room couch. I was dispensing the same advice to my daughter, literally. When I was pregnant with my first child, I had been gifted all the cliché bookish Brooklyn mom swag. Books with titles like Baby Feminists and A is for Activists. And ironically, especially in light of the fact that the Dobbs decision was around the corner, multiple books about Barrett's liberal predecessor, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Even a bib that mimicked Ginsburg's famous dissent collar. One book in particular had become woven into our bedtime ritual. It was filled with pictures of intentionally diverse women overcoming obstacles. Harriet Tubman facing